Thursday afternoon. Hello there. You're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. This afternoon, tears and anguish as bodies of 9 children retrieved following a deadly boat accident. This afternoon, residents of Fana near Wager are demanding immediate construction of a school following that disaster. We'll get you more, plus get the latest update on that. Day 4 pensioners picketing at the Finance Ministry as dependents of some of the aggrieved bondholders join their grandparents to demand government honors its obligation to this individual bondholders. We'll get more on that for you. And an Accra High Court has dismissed an application by the founder of the defunct Capital Bank, William Atoyesian, asking the court to give him a chance to renegotiate with the Attorney General's department.
So if he's able to pay the 60 million, he's now lucky that the court has adjourned the matter to next week. So if he has the 60 million next week and he comes to court and he says he's paid it, that ends the matter.
Well, we have these and more coming your way here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. Don't forget that we're back with the details shortly. We're on DSTV and the Go TV channels. Please stay for details. And this afternoon, there's a strong push for a school to be constructed in the Fana community after 9 school children drowned on their way from school Wednesday. And of course, we know that this community is near Wager and has no school, forcing parents to send their children to school in the adjoining communities via river on some rickety boats. Disaster struck on Wednesday when a boat carrying some 12 school children aged between 1 and 13 years capsized, drowning some 8, with 3 of them surviving. 1 person is still missing, and JoyNews understands that the owner of the boat has reported himself to the Ghana Police Service. A community leader who spoke to JoyNews demanded that government constructs a school within the community immediately.
They have to do is to close it. When they close it, then the river will return to its natural, if you like, standing, so that as and when it overflows its banks, we can have it, gone into the sea at the other side. That's what I can say for now. If they don't do that, we'll continue to have problems. I believe that one of those children gone today can stand and do something about that thing over there. Should they become somebody prominent in society tomorrow? And we don't know what they are coming to be like. And so I believe that should they be alive tomorrow, they can do something. So if they are pushing for compensation, why not? You understand? Because it is government's responsibility to have school over here. And government FQ, everybody should be in school. So why should you go to school and then and die? I wish you are talking to NADBO, because you are talking about arrangement.
No, but you are the assembly.
Here together with me, then we'll know what to do. Now that they are not here, I may be taking unilateral decisions. I believe that South NADBO will come, and then I want them to collaborate with that of Wager, because they created a problem, so that we can find solution to that. But before then, the traumatized, families, we are attended to. And then when things ease down, we will know the way forward.
And there's more for us on the story. Joining me now is Carlos Caloni, our colleague here at JoyNews, who's been following up on that story, being to the community, comes now through with a detailed perspective on the matter. And a pretty disturbing situation there, Carlos. Let's start off by talking about what you found out when you went into the community.
Okay, so I found out that the community itself is very isolated. It's far away from the township. And this is a community with about 300 to 400 residents who are mainly fisher folks. And so they do not have any school in that community. Right. And so the kids are forced to cross to other places to actually have the education. And so that is the nature of the situation in the community.
And let's talk about the local residents and through their representatives. What's been that plea and demand, really?
So basically what they are demanding now is compensation. They want compensation, and they are asking that a school should be built for them in the community to prevent the school kids or children crossing the lake to school in other communities, which is actually exposing them to this sort of danger.
We'll be listening to some of them shortly, but this call or plea for a school building itself, paint the picture to us. How dangerous would it be, just to demonstrate the point that they indeed need the schools, when you have school children crossing the river, which is now becoming a source of threats for the school children?
All right, so this community is more like an island community. And so when we got to where the water is, we had to walk like almost a kilometer to get to the community. This is a community with about 300, 400 residents, actually. And so these kids at tender age, 1.5 years, who would have to cross this water to school without any life jacket, without any adult actually guiding them, is a major, major problem. And so getting a school in the community is the surest way of averting any reoccurrence of such a situation.
You've been engaging some parents on this. First of all, they must be sad, obviously, losing these little ones. But what do you get from them?
So I see a lot of pain, really. You know, we spoke with one woman who's had about 2 of her kids in there. And the last body that was found this afternoon belongs to a man, and he couldn't control himself. I mean, he had to be supported by a resident from the community. So there's a lot of pain and wailing, and I would say it's a solemn kind of situation in the community as we speak.
Mira futa tami boba 5 moma kama gbo maka kwenye jina review mo gbo kwenye jina kuma bo nkejo fi review mo gbo mai ma pera ba ogbo na ha kanye dodo mo ko ma dole bobo mi avi onyun ra tomolo fi me mo ko li dodo klo du fufu e ma rota ta fe kana onyun ro ko amo fudu klo mi ro kaka mi aya nya ta fe review onyun ra tomo ba fa maro obu vinya sueto kple no vinya fevi sueto olo akoko dauda afimango ji mi ba rush ko ira okoji kaka mi aro koji ko o ba fa la afimango ji to tro ma fi ba po amamamle.
Okay, so she's basically saying that at the time the kids were supposed to have returned from school, they did not return. So she was alarmed, especially when she got the info that a boat had capsized. So she rushed there and realized that her 2 kids were involved, and they rushed them. On the way, they actually passed away. So that is the update from the mother. Fifia nonoma ke nwa jofia police alo nad moto over miagboa.
Mara chama yo police over wakpo devi kuko yo ofo koko ira motri.
Okay, so she's just giving us updates on what the police came to do yesterday. They came to convey the body.
Okay, so very disturbed parent there, but let's talk about some other individuals you've been engaging on this matter. What have they been telling you? So
I also engaged with a survivor, a 13 or 15-year-old girl who shared this harrowing story with us, where she practically had to see her siblings drown, but she was helpless. She couldn't actually help the situation. And so you could see she really was very traumatized. After granting us the interview, she went to engage with some family members, but we saw that she was in a corner crying and all that. So clearly, they need some sort of psychological support at this point in time.
Oh, give us your name.
Please, my name is Enyonam Ekpe.
Okay, so what time did this incident happen?
Please, 5:40 p.m.
Can you tell us what happened?
Please, yes. Yesterday, when we are coming home, we don't get boat, and I saw some young boy driving a boat, and I called and said that we should come and pick us. So when the boy came, then I told her that we are plenty inside the boat, so we should remove some people down and go and come and take us. The boy told me, said that the boat to go. I told her again, then the boy said the boat to go. When I was going, then the boat has come and turned. Then I was holding my brother, and my brother fell down. Then I can't find my brother again. Then I hold the boat. When I hold the boat, and some man come and take me home.
So at that point, you couldn't get hold of your brother?
Please, no.
Okay. So what happened to the other people in the boat?
Please, they have died.
All right. So how did you raise alarm at the time?
Please, when we are coming, then the boy take us. Then I said we should put us down.
We are so sorry for your loss. Right. All right. Thank you so much. So that's the story from an eyewitness who actually survived the incident.
And you were raising a question about NADMO and the local authorities. That's a critical area for us to follow up on. You've been making some attempts to listen to authorities, what the account is, and what the way forward will be. What updates do we have, first of all, from the Office of NADMO on this, and then the local authorities?
So I spoke with the Deputy NADMO Director in charge of operations, and he told us he got the info last night, but they arrived at the scene at about midday today. So let's take a listen to what he's been saying.
We'll get that for you shortly, but obviously NADMO is now responding, and then we know that the DC for the area, together with some local authorities, are beginning to work on this demand for a school. Does it look like something on top of the agenda for the DC now to relay to Accra?
Really, I don't see that to be on top of the agenda, because it appears that they are really not prepared for this. And because they said they're going to have a series of meetings with the family, with residents, to actually understand what their demands are. So the demand for the family, or those bereaved families, that they need some compensation, and also they want schools built for them. But some also raising issues of relocation. So these are all issues on the table as we speak now. But the DC is really not certain on which of these they're going to actually go with.
Okay then, Carlos, thanks for giving us that update. In the last hour, the Africa Education Watch has issued a statement on this development. Joining us via Zoom is the Executive Director for the group, Mr. Kofi Asare, who's been monitoring developments himself. Kofi Asare, thank you for your time. So what's the concern really from your outfit? And just before we get to that, I understand that there's an official statement you put out before joining us. So it's a good time also to just take a look at that document briefly, so we bring you on. So that statement is coming through from the Edu Watch, indicating that they are saddened by the news and the reports from Fana and Island community, as we indicated above, on the 25th of January 2023, according to Africa Education Watch, when a similar tragic incident happened. That's somewhere around the Tita Gome area within the Sene East municipality. It killed 8 people. And Edu Watch issued a statement requesting the Ministry of Education, as well as the Ghana Education Service, to urgently mobilize and supply just some life jackets to all pupils and teachers in that very island community, while working to establish some schools in those underserved island areas. Edu Watch also called for some increased collaboration between GES and local authorities to strengthen health, safety compliance at some of these landing bases where students boarded canoes to and fro school. But rather, according to Africa Education Watch, GES supplied only 100 life jackets to the Atiagome area where the last incident occurred, and that's leaving other island communities, leading to possibly today's event. Kofi Asare is with us. Thank you, sir, for your time. So what more could government do, looking at the fact that this is a natural cause, an accident for that matter, which wasn't planned?
Well, a sad day for right to education. First of all, my condolences to the bereaved families. Government has a responsibility to provide basic education for all children, irrespective of their geography or their geographical location. And so it is government's responsibility through the GES and the National Assemblies and the Ministry of Education to ensure that where schools are not available, children are able to access education without risking their lives. That is why when a similar incident occurred in January, we called on the GES and Ministry of Education to provide life jackets for all pupils in island communities and work closely with the local authorities in these island community districts so that, health and safety compliance will be strengthened at the landing bases. The GES responded, and within days, they sent 100 life jackets to Wayakope, which was the community that peoples died then. But our recommendation was that all island communities must have life jackets. Either you send the life jackets to the schools, so the teachers will administer them the way they inspect students who come from home every day, who are wearing uniforms. They will do same for the life jackets, so that every child who is using a boat or a canoe will wear them. Unfortunately, that wasn't done. Only for us to hear that a similar situation has led to the death of 9 poor children. This, we believe, is unacceptable. It's the height of insensitivity. And I think that the children should not be allowed to suffer for the negligence of state agencies whose mandate it is to provide a basic education.
Yeah, but you're making all of these points mindful of the fact that the location or situation of a school facility has to be based on science and not necessarily the fact that you may have some unfortunate incidents happening.
What science? What science are we talking about here? The international conventions we subscribe to, okay, commit us to ensure that the right of the child is protected, irrespective of their geographical location. The GNS's own unwritten policy indicates that no one should commute more than 2 kilometers to school at the kindergarten level and more than 5 kilometers to school at the primary and junior high school level. Okay, and so even if you are going according to policy, that community should have a school. You understand? I don't belong to those who believe that you need about 500 people before you establish a school. If there are 300 people in a community, 200 people in the community, and you need to give them a school to save their life, to cut the risk of commuting through dangerous waters, it makes sense. It makes sense to do that than to allow them to pass through sharky waters, stormy waters, and then endanger their lives. And so the GES, the district assembly first, because they have the responsibility to construct schools. The district assembly has no excuse, okay, for not providing a school facility for this community. How many island communities are there in the Weja and the Botiano area? How many island communities are there? You understand? How many are there? But the reality is that the government is not building basic schools. And so I understand that there's a huge resource deficit situation where we are building less than 1 basic school per year in the past 5 years. And so I will continue to emphasize that in the medium term, the GES should work with the local authorities, and then the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection should also be interested in ensuring that life jackets at least are available in all these schools so that the children can wear them to and from school. But in the medium term, we must roll out a strategy to provide school facilities for all island communities in Ghana. This is not the first, this is not the second, this is not the third, this is not the 10th. It happens every day. So when are we going to sustainably end this? Providing a school for this island community. That's the only way you solve this. And then finally, Parliament must be interested in this. As we keep calling on the GES, the district assemblies to do the right thing, and the Ministry of Education, Parliament has an oversight to perform. We are not seeing that. And so we have brought in Parliament to exercise the oversight and ensure that there's a plan in place to provide basic schools for all island communities, not only in Accra, but right away from the northern region where there are many island communities there, up to the coastal regions.
Structure may be a challenge because even at the basic school, you were the same organization complaining about how government is shifting its priority in terms of expenditure on capital projects at the basic level as compared to what's happening to the free senior high school policy, for instance, the second cycle institutions. That's been a concern for you, knowing that that's government's expenditure approach. Are you not having doubts at this point that government may do this?
Well, I don't have doubts that government has the capacity to provide basic schools in underserved communities, especially in island communities. I don't have doubts. If government is able to prioritize spending properly, government should be able to save funds and build schools. It is a matter of priority. Government must change its priorities and let it reflect on the services that are consumed by the poorest of the poor. I keep saying that when public expenditure is going against commodities or services consumed by the poor, it is a problem. The people in this community are not middle class people. They are poor people. And so denying them a school means that you are not spending adequately to cater for the poor. And that is a rights issue and a social protection issue. So I will call again on government that whether the community is big or small, they deserve to have a school, not because of their population, but because of the need to mitigate the risk of traveling on stormy waters with very, very poor supervision daily to school. And also, at what point will we start prosecuting officials who are paid to ensure that there is sanity on our landing basis? Because it is someone's responsibility at the National Assembly to ensure that boats and canoes that are loaded there are observing the minimum health and safety requirements, including having life jackets. On what basis did a 13-year-old boy allegedly paddle a canoe of about 10 people? A 13-year-old boy, that is child labor to begin with. It means that authorities in the district went to sleep for a 13-year-old boy, according to the assemblyman's account, to have paddled this canoe to and from the school. And so a lot of things have gone on, and you cannot rule out criminal negligence in this case because someone in whose care these children were, someone has breached a duty of care. And to the extent to which this has resulted in the death of people, which is foreseeable, when you don't do your work well, I think that it is time for us to prosecute people for this level of negligence. Other than that, it will always be our sympathies,
right.
And then government will go and bury them.
I see.
And we will continue like that. You must end at a point, and someone must face the law for being negligent.
A number of individuals joining the conversation now. Dr. Kola Ojo is also with us in this whole conversation. He's a senior lecturer at the Department of Geography and Regional Planning at the University of Cape Coast. But let's get some updates briefly from the Assembly member for the area, because he's been working all day, working with authorities to get some solution to this challenge within the community. Thank you, sir, for your time. So, any updates? What are the authorities telling you about this? Starting off perhaps from the concerns Nadmo was raising earlier.
Thank you. Thank you so much, boss. I think my brother raised a point concerning whose responsibility should be for these children to be safe. Rightly so, I think the parents ought to take responsibility as well as the school that these students attend. But the fact is that, these are people who have all their lives around water. And there used to be this man who normally takes these students to school and back. And what we learned was that the boat that they use at the moment is oars. And children, returning from school, and they may be angry around the time, they would like to get home in time and then do their own thing. I think that's how come you find a 13-year-old trying to, ferry other colleagues to the house, and then this accident happens. Accidents, we call it, so we may not be able to calculate when it's going to happen or not. But now that it has happened, I believe we should all wake up and then see what to do and solve the problem so that we cannot have same in the near future. The
demand for a school structure within the community itself, how long has this been a demand on the table that you put before the authorities? And why are they not acting fast?
That place, a lot of people used to dwell there, but as of now, numbers are a bit down. However, that should not deny them access to schools. And so we have islands in the river where they themselves can get about up to class 6 school, and then when they finish and they are grown enough to, ferry themselves across the river to anywhere to Kome or want to go to school, that can happen. But you see, the problem at stake is that I am saying, and I want to repeat it again, that the canal over there is an artificial one created. And that's how come we had 25 people lost their lives. Why do I say so? We have a natural place in Botiano where these water go into the sea. And it comes, and we normally pave ways for it to go into the sea when the rains come. You understand? Sometimes it happens by itself and you see it going into the sea. But because people are built in the buffer, people have, put up buildings all over the place at Tetegu and other places. The least water that is filled from the dam, then somebody wants the water to go so that they can have a safe ground to dwell. And that's what is happening. When we stop giving permit to the people to build in the river or the buffer zone, these things will stop. And then we'll be able to block even that side so that the fisher folks who also fish from this river can also, make their lives better. So there's so much that we all ought to go and look into, and then we bring solutions for future.
Let's talk about the concerns of safety. Because as we speak, it's not as though the schools within the community will be built. What are you putting in place to prevent the recurrence of what the unfortunate incidents recorded within the community?
Thank you so much. Right away, my boss, as in the MC, Joseph Sirinyani, was there. He came along. Though the thing happened at the wager side, he came along, and we have engaged the community halfway, and we are going to have them again so that we can put measures in place to forestall such things happening. One of them is to get them a bigger boat so that the children can be going to school, and then we'll then be looking into the future and see whether it will be feasible enough with GS involved, and see whether they can also have school there so that all these things can be forestalled.
Dan Bright-Abayate is Assembly member for the area, and that's the main reason why I want to bring in Dr. Kola at this point, because Doc, you've just heard from the Assembly member for the area. Safety is much more of a concern now. You're an expert in that area. What would you advise in this case? We have young people crossing the river almost on a daily occasion.
My first condolence has to go to the family of the deceased pupils who were going to school to make a better living in the near future. So I express my condolence to the family and to all the authorities in that very community. Yeah, as you rightly said, I think the first thing we should be thinking of is our children, our pupils should be taught how to swim. That is the first basic thing we have to do. That if you know you are living close to a water body, you should understand that anything can happen at every point in time. So you should learn the basic skill that in case you find yourself in any pool of water, what is the first thing you have to do? Then secondly, another thing which I think we should be thinking of is the provision of life jackets. The lives of these children could have been saved if the canoe in which they were traveling had life jackets. And we have specific life jackets which could be worn by children. We have the ones that can be worn by the adults. And if these two basic things were actually in place, I think we wouldn't have recorded this high number of incidents in this area. Besides, this is not the first time we've heard of this case. It's all over Ghana. But just that this happened in a place where it is close to Accra. I saw on one of your platforms, I think in March or so, that a 2-year-old child also died. Have you wondered what might have caused this death? So, my brother, that is that.
But going forward, the Assembly member not so clear on the safety protocol, what would you urge parents to be considerate about?
What I urge parents to do is, as I said earlier, we should think of learning how to swim. And children learn very fast. So why don't we encourage our children to learn swimming at a very young age? And this would make them to feel comfortable when they find themselves in any pool of water. And when there's any form of mishap, they will know how to maneuver their ways to safety.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you, Dr. Kola, for your time here on The Pulse. An Accra High Court has dismissed an application by founder of the defunct Capital Bank, William Atuesian, asking for a chance to renegotiate with the Attorney General on his issues. Mr. Asian has breached the terms of an agreement that saw him escape jail term and commit to the refund of close to 90 million cedis to the state. He has so far paid some 34 million Ghana cedis. 30 million cedis was paid when the agreement was reached in 2022. He was required to pay another 20 million by April 28 this year. The Attorney General, however, says that the failure to make this payment has left him with no choice but to ask the court to impose a custodial sentence on him. Alfred Tiayeboa, as Deputy Attorney General, has been addressing the press on this matter.
Ghana accused person, the convict was given every opportunity to be spared custodial sentence. He has spanned such an opportunity, and we think that the section in the Courts Act, Section 35(7), must apply. Even as I told the court, if you look at Section 35(7), the court does not even have the power or the discretion to extend time for such a convict. So we think that the convict has come to the end of the road, and for that matter, he must be sentenced.
I mean, they had made the case that they could provide an additional 1 million, and also the point that there's the possibility that it's due to some difficulties. That is how come they couldn't. I mean, in the end, do you think that is it not in the interest of the state if you get the money more than it's being taken into consideration to have been put in jail?
First, he's talking about 1 million or having paid 4 million Ghana cedis. What is 4 million
to have been put in jail?
First, he's talking about 1 million or having paid 4 million Ghana cedis. What is 4 million out of 60 million? And remember, per his refusal to pay as ordered by the court, we are not expected to pay only 20 million, but he's supposed to pay 60 million. So having failed to do so, I think it will be in the interest of justice that the law as we have it is made to work. It is true that I may think that the state needs money, but the laws must also be obeyed.
During the initial stages of the negotiations, when the judge initially disagreed, the argument from the state was that it's better to get this money than to put him in jail. What has changed the position of the state?
Nothing has changed. If, for example, we expect that come here today, he will just come and say, have the 60 million. He will spare custodial sentence. So if he's able to pay the 60 million, he's now lucky that the court has adjourned the matter to next week. So if he has the 60 million next week and he comes to court and says he's paid it, that ends the matter.
Honorable, is there a possibility that even if this is if he's even sentenced, is there a possibility that the state can still use other means to get at least a chunk of the money? Is it possible?
Yes. If you steal or you commit an offense against the state and it involves dishonesty.
Well, the Ashanti region continues to grapple with inadequate health infrastructure, despite the completion of the construction works and stocking of new health facilities. The only tertiary facility in the region, that's the Konfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, is overburdened and overstretched. The hospital recorded some 181 maternal deaths in 2022, the highest in the country. This is the expectation that the new hospital facilities will help improve service delivery in the region. In this report, Human Interior of our health desk takes a look at the failure to operationalize the Afari Military Hospital and the Sewa Regional Hospital and others.
Inside the hospital road is part of the contract, but from Sewa town or from the major road to this place is supposed to be done by government. We are working very hard to see how best we can get those things done. And then power, electricity. Then we're talking to the energy minister. We're looking for some extra money to be able to do that one. I believe it won't take long. All these client obligations will be executed and we can come and commission this facility.
That is Health Minister Kwaku Agyemang-Manu during a visit to the newly constructed Ashanti Regional Hospital at Sewia in August 2022. 8 months on, the facility is yet to be put into use because government has failed to honor its client-related obligations. The fully equipped hospital at Sewia will be the third biggest health facility in the region, next to Konfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital and the yet-to-be completed 500-bed military hospital at Afari.
The arrangements to bring in a contractor to do 8 hospitals, including this one, started from President Konfo's time. Sewia has had its own challenges after President Konfo exited.
For 25 years, residents of Ashanti region, especially indigents of Sewia, whose whose lands were taken for the project had hoped to see the completion of the hospital. Several promises from the government to operationalize the facility remained a mirage. Sogah Jasihine, Nana Safo Echampong speaks for the frustrated residents.
Regional hospital we are phone. A house here, a very woman penny 4 pencil. I bet Miss Abrino. I did 25 good years. O man penny 4 ebe ye bikoy. Eura tames ebe ye bikoy. Eura mama asu somu. And Nana Kufadu so abisomu. Where the Sabri aka edewo. So we are my cousin Hayania Yabois. A high and papa acquire Dagene.
Construction of an indoor substation for the hospital began on January 14, 2023. When completed, the 20 kVA power station will serve the hospital as well as some communities in the Bosomtwe district. Contractors of the power station, Luton Engineering Services, hope to complete civil works in June 2023. But when will the hospital be ready to serve patients when there are no signs of work on the access roads?
The regional hospital at Sogah is completed. We are left with access road to the facility and dedicated electricity and water supply. It is hoped that the regional hospital project will be inaugurated during the 4th quarter of the year 2023. We are also progressing steadily at Adansi North District Hospital at Fomena and Central Kumawu District Hospital. It is expected that these 2 hospital projects will be completed by the end of 2023.
The 500-bed military hospital at Afari and the 120-bed facilities at Fomena and Kumawu have all suffered similar occupation challenges after the installation of medical equipment. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji, could not give definite timelines on the operationalization of those hospitals.
We are hoping that once the trainings and all the deployment for the new facilities are opened, the pressure will come down, the cases will be distributed more.
The completion of these facilities will augment existing health facilities, improve care delivery, and also increase access to quality health care. Residents are, however, cautiously optimistic on how soon these facilities will be put to use.
It's worrying to see such a facility waste away when the residents are in need of such a facility. It will be joy to see that facility being opened to us. Because can you imagine in the middle of the night, you have to trek all the way to, let's say, Atonsu or go back to Pramso. The road itself is not that good.
There's not even a sign of something going on there. As a resident, you need to travel all the way to Atonsu Agogo before you can have access health facility. And this is uncalled for. And we all know that facilities, when you leave facility unattended, it go bad.
That cannot waste away. There's a lot of money, a lot of investments that you've made. Why go through all this just to sit there and let it rot away? Can't rot away. People are dying. People travel miles and miles to get to hospitals, while they can travel a couple of meters just to get to the hospital that you have built for that purpose. There are no road networks, steady power. To me, we, the citizens, have to get up.
Perhaps the completion of the 507-bed capacity Konfanochi Maternity and Children's Block, which started in February 2021, following the demolition of a 44-year-old building over structural integrity issues, will put an icing on the cake. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohimintiria reporting.
It's been days since Ohimintiria followed up on this story. Let's get some updates from him. But also joining the conversation is the Executive Director for Rights and Responsibilities Initiative Ghana, advocate for the universal access to health for women, children, and others as well. She's Abba Opong, who will be joining us with some perspectives on this matter. But first, Ohimin, you've been trying to check with the authorities if indeed this facility will be ready for use, given the timeline that we just heard from the story? Fourth quarter, certainly?
It's a bit difficult for me to say deadline will be met, because similar deadlines have been set, and unfortunately, they still continue to be a mirage as far as the commissioning and opening of those facilities to the public are concerned. The fourth quarter that the regional health director mentioned is not achievable because, for instance, the contractors, the Luton Engineering Services, they are the ones working on the substation project that will supply the Sogah Ashanti Regional Hospital's project at Sogah with stable power supply. According to the contractors, they are likely to finish civil works in June, maybe July. And then after July, it will take about 2 or 3 months to also complete the other works that has to be done by the electricians. So if you are finishing in July, and it will take about 3 months or so to finish the other works, meaning that we are likely to be in October. And after this, we are also talking about test running equipment at the facility to be followed by training for the health professionals who will be the end users of the facility. So to hear that the place will be open to the public in the fourth quarter of 2023, for me, it doesn't look possible. It's not something that can be achieved.
Okay, but then you saw the authorities there, I mean the traditional leaders, indicating that this is run through several administrations, and now the expectation is that the president will do something about it. The last time we heard from the health minister, did you get any sense that indeed he was passionate about this project and the need for them to open up to the public?
To be able to measure whether the health minister was passionate or not is a bit difficult for me, because I don't have the standards to measure whether the minister is passionate about the project. But when he first visited the project site about 8 months ago, he did indicate that the project is dear and key to him. For instance, he mentioned the fact that the president himself is very committed to the realization of the Ashanti Regional Hospital. And for that matter, every now and then, the president will just ask him for updates on that particular project. But to hear that it's taking us 25 years, a project that was started by the MPP administration, by the former president, J.A. Kufuor, President Mills did something, and then President Mahama also did some works. It got to the turn of MPP. For how many years now that the MPP has been in government? Your guess is as good as mine. The provision of link rules and then the stable power supply, I think should have been factored into the program or into the entire project. So to hear that we have wasted almost 25 years in constructing the edifice and then also sort of providing all the medical equipment that are needed to run the facility, for us to be told that now we have to hold several meetings, engage the energy minister, look for extra money in order to get a steady power and also construct access roads to the facility, is something that beats my imagination. So if the project itself, the entire project has taken 25 years, what do you think will happen to these two auxiliary facilities that has to be provided in order to support the project? So for me, that is where my fear is. And for the minister to say, yes, he's committed, but the commitment will be that residents of Ashanti region want to see the facility being put to use. If people are sick, they can go to the facility and then get treated, but not when people's lands have been taken for 25 years. The argument from the community is that lands were taken from individual families with the hope that the project could be completed and they themselves could be beneficiaries. But for 25 years, the wait is too long. That is what they say. So they want to see something viable. And this viability thing they are talking about is when they see that the project has been opened, people can go to the hospital, they can get treatment, and that can satisfy them.
Okay. Ohiming, grateful. I want to hear now from Abal Pong, who's with us via Zoom. Thank you for your time. So, are you likely to also add your voice to this, deploy at least some mechanisms, either overt or backdoor, just to get these facilities open?
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. For me, as an advocate,
inside the hospital,
can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, I am saying that for me, as a universal health advocate, I am beside myself with despair, stating that the project began 25 years ago, 25 long years, a quarter of a century. The objective for which the lands were taken, the objectives for which the projects were begun, have still not been achieved. We have waited long enough. And for me, these issues of uncompleted, abandoned government projects are due to lack of political will. Specifically, lack of political will for successive, parties who win power to continue the work done by their predecessors. So it's only lip say. In the case of the Sogah Ashanti Regional Hospital, which is due to be opened on the 4th quarter of this year, for me, it's very, very, very sad. And at the last performance review last month, the director of Ghana Health Service stated that they will need to begin in the 4th quarter because the access road should be done and then stable electricity should be done. I mean, how long does it take for these things to be done? And we keep postponing. Meanwhile, while during this 25-year wait, a lot of people have taken the opportunity and had a lot of money from that, whether through proper means or not proper means. That is being done. And for me, as a civil society advocate, as an advocate for universal health coverage, I think that we should strengthen our advocacy, strengthen our campaign, encourage community groups, including the media, to demand quality health service from our government so that people who need healthcare can get quality healthcare from these hospital or health services that have been abandoned for a quarter of a century.
Is there any tangible effects that you're able to share with us? Because the feeling of some is that, well, there are some of the facilities in the area that residents are managing or making do with for now. So are the effects telling, the fact that these facilities are not open?
Oh, yes, the facts are telling. For the simple reason that, you see, we have different levels of health services. You have the community-based, you have the district-based, you have the regional-based, and you have the regional-based. And for all of these levels of health services, there are specific services that are offered. So in the case of the regional hospital, which is supposed to be in Sogah, operations which are now being done in maybe Komfuanochi in Tibetan in the central region, and Kolebu would be sent there to ease, the amount of pressure on those facilities that are already existent. So for me, I am saying that the lack is still giving problems to all the citizens in the Ashanti region, who for one reason or the other may need the services which ought to be provided for the regional hospital in Sogah.
So going forward, what's your expectation really from government? They've given the 4th quarter. Do you, from your perspective, do you believe that, some of these facilities could be open way longer before the deadline?
Oh, I believe so, because I was at the last performance review for 2022 myself in Kumasi, and when he said it, we all were looking forward that it would be achieved. Going forward, I expect that at least JoyNews, Love News, civil society, advocates, the coalition of NGOs in health would all come together and periodically, maybe even monthly, go to the site to find out the things that they are doing to ensure that come the fourth quarter, the road from maybe the Sogah Junction at Ramsia or the Atonsum to Kuntanasi Main Road has started being developed. Then we can say for sure that come the fourth quarter. But I passed there only yesterday and not much had been done. I didn't see any work going on. So if it continues like that, how sure are we that come the fourth quarter, it will be open? And the fourth quarter starts from October to December. And there was no specific month or date. So action from media, from civil society, from health advocates, from even the service providers themselves is what will let the government speak up. And for me, I am using this medium to call on the government, to call on political parties to eschew this, political issue. Yes, NPP started it, so NDC will not continue. NDC started it, so NPP will not continue. In fact, it is killing us, not only in the health sector, but in all facets of life, where duty bearers, ministries, policymakers have to take decisions to ensure that certain services are provided to citizens, to community members, to the vulnerable, to women, to children, to persons with disability.
Okay. Abelpon, thank you. And for you, Ohiming, which other facilities should we be paying attention to?
Yes, for now, we are looking at the Sewia Regional Hospital, the Ashanti Regional Hospital at Sewia. It's 250 bed capacity hospital. For Mina, and then such a Kumawu, and also Santi Achemu Central Hospital. That one was commissioned about 8 months ago, but as we speak, we have just skeletal staff who are currently at the hospital. What it means is that they are not offering full capacity health care service to the people. So that one is also in limbo. Okay. We can also talk of the 500 bed capacity hospital at Afari. That is a military hospital. So all these facilities, the same way that the regional hospital has been in existence for 25 years, the military hospital has also been on the drawing board for the past 25 years. They have medical equipment installed, but yet it's not been operationalized.
Okay, Ohiming, we'll definitely watch the space, but thank you for bringing us this critical update on the health sector in the Ashanti region. You're watching The Pulse. We'll return with some more stories. Please stay. We take you up north now, where the Municipal Chief Executive Officer of the Nanumba North, Abdullahi Yakub, says the Assembly will push for the procurement of furniture for schools located in rural communities to give children a decent education. He stated that the Ministry of Education had already requested an update on the matter, assuring that the Assembly will follow up for the procurement to be done. But what triggered this? And just listen to this report by JoyNews features editor Jojo Kovina, where an 11-year-old girl shed tears and pleaded for government to provide them with furniture.
Children slumming on the bare, dirty floor in the name of education is common in many rural communities across the country. The pupils improvise by squatting, lying on their bellies or assuming weird positions on the floor just to get an education. The Bakwaba Primary School in the Nanumba North District of the Northern Region is one of the schools with a furniture problem. About 6 classes sit on the bare floor to study. For many years, the nursery, kindergarten, all the way to primary 5 do not have furniture. The problem is bigger in the Northern Region. About 213,252 children are without furniture, and that is according to the Africa Education Watch. Children show up to school in clean uniforms but get dirty in less than 30 minutes upon arrival. Odanjo Gifty is a primary 5 pupil. To get access to a desk, she comes to school very early in the morning. The furniture situation here is based on a first-come, first-served basis, but she is not happy losing hours of sleep because of furniture. Gifty found a way to avoid lying on the floor to write, but she's not happy that her colleagues lie on their bellies to write.
Government blood of Gananga the gun can tell Debayadan school Kakatanga Ali lack of one young Kanga Ipum Bimena never couldn't do the Ruchinawa. Bokam Kakatanga uniform back by uniform, but the gun can tell.
At this point, tears cloud her eyes, and shortly after, all emotion she had bottled up finally let loose.
Ali Mabakasalakana, marked by uniform, my uniform Bakaka. Unkataka, what I do to Kokamo coat son in Ali to like being cook, what I batter.
She had endured enough of the humiliation. Her teacher, Janet Tijotap, who served as my translator, couldn't believe that the children are so affected by the furniture situation. She also shed tears.
During the rainy season, whenever it rains, it links from the up there. So they have to run into a small room over there. So she coming to school to see her colleagues lying down. When she look at it, she feels sad. So and that was what made her cry. I feel bad.
These tears are because of the pain of inequalities they had suffered for years. For years, teachers have not explored how children feel about sitting, lying and squatting on the bare, dirty floor to study. Many, including teachers, assume that the children are used to slamming it hard on the floor. But times have changed. The children are demanding equality.
Sir, it's very pathetic. The educational minister should try his possible means and talk to Akufo-Addo to solve this problem. Because, like I said, she has been seeing her colleagues on TV, how they dress, how their classrooms look, but theirs is different. It's not even quarter to the others.
In 2021, data from the Ministry of Education indicates that about 956,000 KG pupils, representing half of the national KG population, and 1.28 million pupils in primary schools lack desks in schools.
Very sad excerpts of what we're seeing in this latest of Ghana's schools of shame. I want to bring in now Municipal Chief Executive for the Nanumba area. Just before we get to our conversation, first of all, listen to the authorities in the area indicate what they'll be doing to address the situation. Starting off with the Municipal Chief Executive for the Nanumba area, Abdullah Yakub.
I am very much aware of the problem. And if you look at the municipality, we have over 15,000 furniture deficit in the over 100 basic and then junior high schools in the area. Last month, Action Aid gave us 700 dual decks and then over 104 tables for KGs and then 684 chairs for the KGs. In our own small way, as the Assembly, we have provided over the years about 1,100 furniture. The Minister of Education last year gave us 400 pieces of dual decks And currently, as we speak, the assembly has constructed or manufactured about 200 dual decks yet to be distributed to the schools.
Very good developments there from the MCE, but let's get more from the Director for School for Life, with Dan Chaibu. Their NGO is specialized in advocacy for equality when it comes to education in the northern parts of the country, and you've been doing a lot of work in this area. How big is the furniture situation in the 5 northern regions?
Thank you very much for this. Good evening to your cherished viewers. In fact, the furniture deficit situation is a huge problem across the 5 regions in northern Ghana where we work. As you have also heard from the Municipal Chief Executive in the Nanumba North District, the municipality alone faces a furniture deficit of 15,000. If you look at the available statistics that we have, actually estimates that about 5.8 million children in Ghana's public basic schools lack simple furniture decks to learn. In the northern region alone, over 200,000 public primary schools are without furniture. If you go to Upper East region, over 100,000 learners are without furniture. If you are to even look at it in terms of proportion against the national average, whereas the national average puts the percentage of basic school learners who lacks decks at 40%, in the northern region, northeast region alone, over 80% of basic school pupils lack furniture. Northern region, it is about 70%. This is twice as much as the national average.
I see.
So that is how big the situation is in these 5 regions.
I get the point. And you've been keeping up the fight, but what's been the reaction from policymakers? Because their input will be crucial in dealing with some of these issues.
Yes, I will say it's a mixed reaction in some of the districts, especially like the work that we do. We have come to realize that it is important we mobilize citizens, local people themselves, to really identify the challenges that they are confronted with and engage the local authorities. In this case, I'm talking about the local assemblies and then the Ghana Education Services at the local level, because they are those who are easily accessible to them. So we have been mobilizing citizens, building their capacity to really understand the basic standards of services required for quality basic education to be provided. And based on this, and also giving them the right kind of information about what government commitments are and targets are, and building their capacity to actually benchmark some of their realities against the standard requirements. So based on this knowledge, they are able to engage with the relevant authorities at that level, at the local governance level. And as I indicated earlier, it's a mixed responses we've been getting. In some areas, the response is positive, albeit rather slow. Like the responses come in very slowly than the agency that the situation really requires. And in some other areas, some of the government officials are not really receptive to some of these demands and advocacy work that we are doing. But I would say that there's some successes, especially if you have, as the Municipal Chief Executive in Nanumba North has indicated, as we have been engaging, we've been getting these assurances that they are putting in steps to really deal with some of the... we know the enormity of the situation, but we cannot just throw our arms in despair and look at it. We need to tackle them step by step, maybe gradually, If we were really tackling them, maybe the situation wouldn't have been compounded as it is now. But at least we are getting these assurances from some of them. But it's a work in progress. You know, the advocacy work will not just achieve results overnight. We also, as we mobilize the citizens, we are also engaging directly with the assemblies, with the GES at that level, to really understand the need to really be responsive to some of the demands that are being made.
With that, we need to laud the efforts you're putting in place just to ensure that these young ones have the necessary or requisite furniture to continue their education. But if there's someone still in doubt about the essence of what we've just seen demonstrated in the latest Ghana Schools of Shame about the dire furniture situation up north, what would you say to such a person, the person indicating clearly that, well, it's just a matter of furniture, we can handle this?
No, I mean, the situation is far greater than we are looking at. Maybe that person would have actually been oversimplifying the enormity of the situation because, or the gravity of it. As you can see in the video, the situation, the dire situation that children have to be confronted with has actually brought a girl, an 11-year girl, to tears because they feel it and they know this is not the situation, this is not the circumstances or the environment that we should be in, but they are compelled to. And it is not surprising then that a lot of children are not really motivated. Why should they be motivated when they know that when they go to school, they would be compelled to lie on their belly to learn? Why will even a teacher under that condition be motivated to go to school when he or she does not have simple decks to even mark the attendance register of a child?
Right.
For us, we think that furniture is one of the basic infrastructure or basic resources that need to be provided if we were to achieve quality education. I mean, if you cannot have a decent place to sit, how will you be able to feel comfortable? How convenient will it be for you to really pay attention to whatever is being taught in class? So these children are really doing great. They are doing magic. They are doing wonders, because to think that children in this situation, these circumstances, will be subjected to the same kind of standards that children in well-to-do areas, urban areas, I mean, we are doing a great disservice and injustice to children who are found in this part of the country through no fault of theirs. Nobody asks, to be born into those circumstances. But it doesn't also mean that when you are born into a household that is poor, into a geographical area that is underserved, then you are doomed for life. That is, the essence of governance is to provide resources equitable, to ensure that regardless of your situation, you are able to access the basic services required to access basic education. And basic education, as we all know, is by right. Is by right. Our constitution guarantees that every child, every Ghanaian child, should have access to basic education. And we have even gone further to develop a policy that makes basic education compulsory. But yet, we are not putting in place the needed resources and facilities that will enable children to really feel comfortable when accessing what is supposed to be their basic fundamental human right. So I think that as a country, we really need to step up. We need to really wake up and realize that, yes, we know services and issues, the situation, the services and the issues are competing for resources. But we have also agreed that education is one of the basic products that we have to, provide to children. And it is important that we really live up to the very tenets of our laws, of our policies, rather than paying lift services to distance. Resources will always be limited, but for me and for us as an organization, we think that it is important for us to prioritize, because it's all about priority. If we really recognize that basic education, and basic education in the rural areas for that matter, is equally important, we'll really be paying, prioritizing and paying attention to those schools.
Okay. With that, grateful. I see how passionate you are. Times ahead will be better, indeed. That's all we all hope for. Thanks for joining us. And now the effects of the government's inability to pay bondholders their coupons bites harder as children begin to join their parents to demand their money. 2 grandchildren of one of the pensioner bondholders joined the 4 of the pensioner bondholders picketing in solidarity with their grandparents. Here's what they told JoyNews earlier this morning.
Because my grandma doesn't have money to pay my school fees for me. So they'll sack me out of the school when my grandma hasn't paid my school fees. So today I'm here for my grandma's money so that she can pay my school fees for me, so that I can go to school, so that in the future I can be a police.
You want to be a police?
Yes.
I see. So you are here today to help your grandma take her money, right?
Yes.
What about if you don't get the money today? What will you do?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes.
Do you know who is holding your grandma's money?
Yes.
Who is holding your grandma's money?
Nana Akufo-Addo.
I see. So if you meet him one-on-one today, what will you tell him?
I tell him that I want my grandma's money back for her, because we are painting the house and then my grandma can buy food for us to eat when she doesn't have money. That's why I came here today.
Where are the rest?
The rest are in school and some of them are in the house.
Thank you.
Okay.
A very sad situation there. Meanwhile, their grandparents say they fear all 7 children will have to stay home or may drop out to school.
We've paid her last school term, the both of them. When the new academic year starts, I have no money to pay school fees again. We've already told her the school bus cannot pick her. She's got to walk to school. She's begging us. She can't walk to school because it's very far. The little one already walks to school. We wanted to take her from her school and put her in school with the older one. But the older one's school fees is higher. We want the best for our grandchildren. These are not the only grandchildren I have. There are many more. There are even babies coming. If I don't fight and help my grandchildren, who will do it for me? People sitting in their big air-conditioned offices, holding Bibles in one hand, wearing white clothes, never pay attention to suffer the little children to come unto me. Never. They don't do it. Do they? Do they care who they are hurting? Do they care who they are hurting? Look at all the old people here. Is it right? Little children are suffering. Some are sick. Christmas Day, this guy and I went to Children's Hospital. We went to give the children in the hospital gifts. We came home to eat contobre with yam. That night, only to hear they are taking our bonds. What will the children eat? The old people can't buy medicine. Who will buy it for them? Who will buy medicine when the children to get ill? The amount of money we spent last month on typhoid, she had typhoid alone, was not a joke. They've taken my money, my family. Some of the old women are begging me, baby, we can't come. Go and represent us. Go and talk for us. You are not only affecting old people, you are affecting future generations, future leaders, future citizens of this country. Where's your heart? Where's your compassion? You are asking us today to go home and retreat. You give us our money. We won't retreat. Give us our money. The children need it. The old people need it. All these old people here have grandchildren. Some of them are paying their school fees. Some of the grandchildren are sick. They are paying their hospital bills. They are paying their own hospital bills too. What life is this? This is where we have reached Ghana today. This is where we have reached Ghana today. Is this right? Somebody should tell me this is right. I will go home. They should tell me this is right. I will go home. Nobody can tell me it is right because what is going on here? Look at them. All elderly people. This is not right. Some of them, their fathers, their mothers are still alive. They are looking after them. They are supporting them. If she doesn't get an education, what is she left to do? Prostitution? Is that where our grandchildren should go now? I don't think so. I don't think so. We want our money. We want our grandchildren educated. We want even the ones to come 100 years from now to benefit from our bonds. Oh. We want them to benefit because we sweated and toiled for our families. Not just ourselves, oh, for our families. So please, they should give us our money. The children are saying, give us our money. The old people want their money. The sick people, why? The vulnerable are what you are going to kill in this country.
My name is Mame Enewo Eho. Na be so many months ni me mama catch me so ya jene bond na me so mommy mate but we dey nya abotre na ye de be den ye de be ma o mommy kasa last month kura mommy that was na niti ye din so gu no so na me hu se de ekwa die enye nti we die ye sra ban na esre no cause mommy shy alefo nipo be mo be show mo no me kura me mommy nti ene me suma ye bi ene mommy niska me misika mommy boa me ame suma park egu no ene mommy oje efri me nsem a me de abo na besia nti esre no a enkwala yi ene ayalefo e wo fie esra ba ene se onfa ne sika ye de emma no na odi a yenso enye bia ye de edi.
And now President Akufo-Addo says his government is working to ensure the highest value of the larger part of Ghana's mineral resources is retained in the country for development. According to him, government through a public-private partnership is establishing a 400 kilogram per capacity refinery to refine the gold the country produces. He was speaking at a two-day natural resources stakeholders dialogue happening here in Accra.
Environmentally sound manner, but also in a way that ensures optimal benefit to the people of Ghana. This we will never compromise. Indeed, by Section 28 of the GIADEC law and Section 30 of the GISDEC law, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is empowered to make regulations to ensure that no bauxite or iron ore in their raw state is exported out of the country after 5 years of the coming into force of these laws. With the policies and measures we're putting in place, we intend to invoke these provisions of our laws, and soon bauxite and iron ore will no longer be exported in their raw state from the country. We will ensure that the highest values of these minerals is retained in our country. We have, through a public-private partnership, established a 400 kilogram per day capacity refinery to refine the gold we produce. Work is progressing steadily on securing a London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, certification to enable us trade easily our refined gold on the international market. Today, for the first time in our history, the Bank of Ghana is implementing a domestic gold purchase program, which was launched in June 2021 to purchase gold domestically to shore up our gold reserves. This has culminated in an agreement with the large-scale mining companies for the Bank of Ghana to purchase 20% of their gold output in cedis, again easing the pressure on the cedi. For well over the century that we have been mining gold, our gold reserves between the 1980s and June 2021 were just 8 tons. Under the domestic gold purchase program, our gold reserves have increased from 8 to 14 tons as at the end of 2022. That is just 18 months of implementation of this program. And clearly, the resources will continue, the reserves will continue to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand our fiduciary duty as trustees of our natural resources for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. And we remain committed to do right by the Ghanaian people in the discharge of our duties as trustees of these resources. But we shall continue to count on your support in the discharge of this onerous mandate. I'm confident that out of this dialogue we can all renew our commitment to the sustainable management of our natural resources whilst protecting our natural environment for current and future generations.
Well, the Land and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo noted that 3 new large-scale mining operations are scheduled to start production within the next 2 years. According to him, pursuant to the instruction of the President, a technical committee is finalizing a policy document on exploration, management and utilization of Ghana's grain minerals, including lithium, for consideration of Cabinet.
Ever changing at a very fast
And this is your election headquarters. The opposition National Democratic Congress is urging the High Court to dismiss the case filed by flag bearer hopeful of the party, Dr. Kwabena Dufo. Documents filed by lawyers on behalf of the candidate describe the case as, on behalf of the party, actually describe the case as incompetent, frivolous, and one not grounded in law. The party is hoping that the court will agree with it on, or at least give it the green light to hold the all-important presidential and parliamentary primaries in barely 48 hours. Dr. Dufo alleges the list of voters handed him by the party is bloated and not an accurate reflection of eligible delegates. Head of research for Dr. Dufo's campaign team, Kofi Kukubo, says the case will be withdrawn only if the party calls off the polls.
And now is to guarantee credible register. What we are asking for to ensure that we have credible voter register is postponement so that we have a roundtable discussion to clean the register. This is what we are trying to establish. They think what we are requesting for is only for the benefits of Dr. Kwabena Dufo. No. How will it feel for a delegate to travel a long distance to a voting center only to discover that his name or her name is not in the register? I mean, he's being denied his or her fundamental right to vote and choose the person that he or she wants to represent him or her. And this is the crux of the matter, that as much as the 3 candidates may be or will be the beneficiaries, but the right of the grassroots, the delegates, to vote must be guaranteed. And we are saying that that can only be guaranteed through a credible voter register.
Also, that's the head of research for Dr. Kwabena Dufo's campaign team, Kofi Kukubo, speaking to Evans Mensa on PM Express. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable joins us with details of the document filed by lawyers for the NDC. I will get Blay for you a little later, but the concerns are quite deep, with the campaign team indicating that they are not ready to withdraw the case. So what will be the implication for the NDC? The party says it is confident that, of course, it will be able to hold all of these issues, trash them out, which will pave way for the party to go ahead with the exercise. We can listen to the NDC Director of Legal Affairs, Ibrahim Maliba, insisting that the case filed by Dr. Kwabena Dufo is without merit. And we'll get those legal arguments for you later on. But the former President John Mahama, who's also in this race, has been commenting on the matter.
Over the past week, news emerged that Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia met with a majority caucus in Parliament and finally declared before them his intention to contest to lead the new Patriotic Party in the 2024 elections. The news comes as former President John Dramani Mahama is also seeking to be re-elected to lead the opposition NDC. The two leaders come from the north and many are already predicting stiff competition if both are elected by their respective parties. However, reacting to the news about the vice president presidential bid, spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign, Joyce Bawa Mutari, said the vice president is unfit to lead the country because he has failed to deliver the promises he made to his own people in the northeast region.
You know, I'm traveling through Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's own constituency, and I'm asking myself, where are all the promises that he made even to his own community, to the region, the northeast? You understand? So I don't even have seen them. I'm here with you. Tell me one thing that you have seen that is different. We've been to Wale, we've been to Gambaga. We are still on. Just show me one thing. The road is still undone.
According to Mrs. Mukhtari, who is also a special aide to the former president, Dr. Bawumia, rather than seeking to be president, should be apologizing to Ghanaians for all the challenges of the country.
Nobody wants a leader who lies to them, a leader who carries out deceptions, a leader who scams his people, a leader whose intentions are just calculated to deceive. I believe that is not the sort of leader that we all expect. So please, if I were Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, I would go home and sit and reconsider my position. Or I'll apologize to the good people of Ghana for all the promises I made that have totally failed. I will apologize for all the challenges to do with our economy and the fact that he has actually run Ghana into a ditch. I'll apologize for leading an economic management team that has come to naught and done absolutely nothing, for promising to arrest the dollar and failing to do so, for knowing that there's money in the Bank of Ghana and in the votes and that you work there, have all come to a standstill and have completely failed. I think that the leader that Ghana wants at this time is one who is preoccupied by power, by lies, by falsehoods, and by insults.
Madam Joyce Bawa Mukhtari was speaking in the home region of the vice president, where the former president was campaigning for his re-election. Meanwhile, the Northeast Regional Executive of the NDC have declared their support for the former president. Speaking on behalf of the executive, the regional chairman Abdul Rauf Tanko urged all the party delegates to give John Dramani Mahama a 100% vote on Saturday, May 13th.
And now the WA Central NDC parliamentary primary is expected to be keenly contested by two lawyers, international relations experts and a pharmacist, battling it out in the NDC primaries. And of course, we know that the incumbent WA Central Member of Parliament, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpo, is in a battle of his life as he begins his bid for a sixth term in Parliament against the former Food and Drugs Authority Chief Executive Officer Alhaji Hindu Mukhtari. JoyNews Upper East Regional Correspondent Rafiq Shalam reports the two lawyers are battling it out on the field. There's more in this report.
Democratic Congress flag bearer hopeful John Dramani Mahama began his two-day campaign tour of the Upper West region at Tumu, capital of the South East constituency. He interacted with the 837 delegates drawn from 96 branches of the party that will be voting at the party's presidential and parliamentary primaries on Saturday. The delegates, clad in the party's paraphernalia and over 2 dozen glowing Vuvuzela happy supporters, the auditorium of the Tumu College of Education was full to the rafters. Former President John Dramani Mahama used the occasion to introduce the trio aspiring to represent the party in the 2024 polls, urging them and their supporters to put the primaries behind them once a victor emerges in the Saturday polls, and then went in for the jugular of the new Patriotic Party and President Akufo-Addo.
In 2016, all the lies they told, all the propaganda they told, Ghanaians can now see the truth. All the preaching, Yetisikasu, Ekomdeye, and all that, Ghana, Yemo, and all those things. I mean, we are now even more mobile today than in 2016. Any work anybody does, you hardly get any profit. I can beat my chest and say that in 2016, when MDC was in power, our lives were far better than they are today. So I can assure you, all the predictions, all the opinion polls show that NDC is coming back into office.
He reiterated earlier plans made on the need to complete all projects started by the NDC and now being abandoned by the MPP.
All over, you go to our schools, you go to all our districts, and there are projects that government started that have been abandoned. There are some that are ongoing, but because they are not paying the contractors are not on site. We were building a lot of roads. When they came, they asked them to stop. They asked them to go back, but they are not paying the contractors, so the work is not going fast. So what we'll do is we're not going to be in a hurry to start new projects. We're going to take an inventory of all the abandoned projects and ongoing projects, including their own. We're not going to just do ours.
On to technology, Ghanaian scientists are using mobile phones to control hypertension. Hypertension has been implicated as the greatest risk factor for stroke. More than 90% of stroke victims have high blood pressure. Fortunately, scientists in Ghana and Nigeria are using mobile phones to improve hypertension and other stroke risk. The invention led to some 11 points reduction in some systolic blood pressure of the study group. JoyNews' medical correspondent, Dr. Neta Pasram, speaks with the lead scientist, Professor Fred Stephen Safo of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology for our Tech Test Day.
When we say stroke clinically, it refers to a problem in the brain whereby blood is not able to get to one part of the brain, or the blood vessel carrying blood to the brain ruptures, and therefore you bleed into the brain.
Well, yes, that is stroke. What then are the risk factors for stroke?
Number one on the list is hypertension. If you take 100 stroke patients, 90 to 95% of them would have hypertension. That shows that hypertension is the dominant risk factor for stroke in Ghana and elsewhere across Africa, actually. Number two will be dyslipidemia, abnormal lipid or abnormal fat in the blood. So that constitutes about 70%. So if you take 100 stroke patients, 70 of them will have abnormal cholesterol or abnormal triglycerides in their blood. And that's followed next by diabetes. Up to about 30% of our stroke patients have diabetes. But importantly, up to another 30% have pre-diabetes. In other words, they don't have the diabetes, but they're on their way to developing diabetes. So if you aggregate the two together, you have about 60% with dysglycemias or abnormal blood glucose levels, predisposing them to stroke. Then we have lifestyle factors. If you consume less vegetables, you're at higher risk of stroke. If you consume more meat or regular consumption of meat, you're at higher risk of stroke. If you don't exercise, physical inactivity predisposes you to stroke.
The study involved 100 stroke-free patients with at least 2 risk factors for stroke. 50 of these patients were exposed to just one-time counseling. However, the other 50 were given a stroke video, which educated them on their risk factors for 2 months.
So one of the avenues for preventing stroke really is to harness the potential of phones, mobile phones. to be able to provide education and also to assess your risk. So recently we've been able to design a risk score that is tailored for Africans. So you put in your risk score on an app and it gives you the percentage of probability of developing a stroke. And based on the score, we are then able to now give you advice, either via remotely by a nurse, that look, you have hypertension, you have bad eating habits, so please watch a video that will give you this education on it. So after watching the video, the individual is then motivated to put in lifestyle measures and seek medical help to address risk factors like hypertension or high cholesterol.
After the study, it was noticed that those who were exposed to the video for 2 months had a significant reduction in their blood pressure and heightened awareness of stroke risk factors.
So when we tested this in a pilot trial in Nigeria and Ghana, what we found was that those who were able to assess their risk with their mobile phone and then watch the stroke cartoon, which is a video, a movie, very interesting movie of about 10 minutes. They were able to show significant reduction in their stroke risk score in just 2 months, compared to the control group that did not have access to the stroke video or assess their stroke risk. So these are interesting pilot findings that suggest that, well, we could just simply use or tap into mobile technology, a simple mobile phone, to be able to prevent stroke in the context of Africa.
Here is another brilliant approach to reducing stroke risk. So remember to regularly check your blood pressure, blood glucose and lipid levels. And if for any reason you are put on medication, please be sure to take it. For Joy News, Dr. Netta Passround.
And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm blessed to log on to myjoyonline.com for updates. Thanks for watching.